All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. Now, we're going to talk about Francis Ngannou because Francis Ngannou went public and said that he's giving the UFC an ultimatum, which is in his new contract, if they want to re-sign him, there has to be contractual carve-out that gives him the ability to go box Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder.
Ahead of his upcoming UFC 270 title defense, Francis said in his most recent interview that he demands his new UFC contract to include the opportunity to fight outside the octagon and compete in the world of boxing, otherwise he will not agree under any conditions. He also warned the UFC promotion that his transition to boxing will happen with or without them.
This is the point where I will probably take a bunch of things, like edit parts of videos that I was saying this for the last 5 months and then put them in here. The reason we're doing this video is because Francis Ngannou has a fight on the books with Ciryl Gane. And unless people know things that I don't, which is impossible, Francis is going to be in a situation where he will have the freedom to box if he wants to in the near term. You basically have two options. I'm not going to dive into the weeds of the details, but the bottom line is if Francis and his team decide they want to fight, if they want to box, if they want to leave UFC and box or co-promote with UFC and box, they will have the option to do that. And then maybe if I'm really feeling creative and vindictive, I'll go and cut out a handful of the comments that I got throughout those videos, where people said, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But really specifically, the one that really pissed me off was someone said on the last one, they were like, look, man, you got a really entertaining channel, but now you're just straight up lying to your viewers. I was like, really? So if he just said, hey, you're just lying to your viewers, that would have, I'd be like, whatever. But you're actually engaging with me. Now you're saying oh, you have an entertaining channel, I watch it. So we're now engaged on a man-to-man. And you're like, but you're lying. So now you've actually directly called me a liar, which pissed me off. So whoever that person was, what now, dude? Apologies go down there. That's where those go. When you accuse a person of lying and then find out that they weren't, so apology down there. But yeah, so listen, here's the deal. This isn't rocket science, okay? The UFC fighters, everybody basically knows this because of things that have been said public, right? It's UFC champions generally make between, I don't know exactly, but between $3 and $10 million per fight, depending on their contract and the pay-per-view buys, okay? Every once in a while, someone will get, Conor, who knows about Conor? But sometimes you will get a little bit bigger. I heard Dustin made $12 million for the Conor fight, but that's that's an enormous payday. That would be a huge payday for a champion. John Jones said he's been making $5 million a fight, for however long, right? Okay, so if you're on the other side of a 60-40 AB with Tyson Fury in a boxing match, what do you think you make then? And if you really and this isn't just your regular run-of-the-mill Tyson Fury fight. If this was Francis Ngannou, if he's coming off of a Ciryl Gane knockout win, okay, and then he goes and he fights in boxing against Tyson Fury, what do you think the B side of that is at 60-40? Okay, guy can make $60-70 million. He could probably get a $35 million guarantee. Okay. A 35 mil. Really, if the thing really goes bananas, I think it will, he can make $100 million on it. So this isn't rocket science why he wants to do this. It's not rocket science. And here's the thing. It's not unreasonable for him to ask. And I actually think everyone, the best case scenario here is going to be the UFC is going to make out like a bandit on this too. This is the correct play here, in my opinion. And obviously I don't know all the moving parts, is for the UFC to structure a deal for him that allows him to do it and the UFC co-promotes. For a Tyson Fury fight, you don't need the UFC because like Ngannou said, Ngannou directly said, I will not sign with the UFC if I do not have contractual permission to fight Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder. And he said that's happening with or without the UFC. So he's directly saying either the UFC is going to give me the ability to fight those guys or I'm not re-signing with the UFC. And we've talked about this enough that he can do that. If he lost to Ciryl Gane on the 22nd, he is a free agent. If he wins, he's got the champ clause, and there's some details there. But bottom line is he's out of his contract either way at the end of a certain time period because he's been on the same deal for 5 years, right? So the bottom line is this. He is directly line in the sand. He's fighting Tyson. I mean, let's just say Tyson Fury for all intents and purposes. He wants a Tyson Fury fight, and that's his priority. Now, he wants to sign with the UFC, but it's a deal breaker for him if they won't facilitate him or allow him to do it, right? So, I mean, if I'm the UFC, right, and I'm innocent, because here's the thing. The UFC, it's all about precedent. The UFC doesn't want to give Francis that deal because they don't want every single one of their fighters to go and demand it, right? That's all it is. It's not about Francis. Like, none of this is about Francis. It's about precedent. And so they already did it with Conor, but with Conor, they've already they just put out the numbers on Conor's pay-per-view sales versus the UFC's total sales. It's during the period of time that Conor's been active, I can't remember exactly, but it was something like he's like 60 something percent of all the pay-per-views sold, maybe even 65, 70% of all the pay-per-views sold had Conor on them. Like, that's how enormous a draw he is. So, when you do something with Conor, if people really understand the business, they understand that that is a thing that doesn't necessarily apply to them. But Francis is also in an incredibly unique situation. This doesn't need to set precedent, this doesn't need to set precedent, because here's the thing. The reason why Francis can do this is because Francis only has one fight on his deal, and he really can go fight Tyson Fury, and they know it. Of course they know it. Of course they know that. Why do you think why do you think that they're saying that Francis has terrible representation? Why do you think that is? You think it's because Markel is doing a bad job? Like, do you really believe that? Because, let me just explain this to you guys. Like, a shit manager is exactly what you want your fighters to have. You want your fighters to either have a shit manager that has no idea what they're doing, or a manager that manages so many of the guys, like Ali, that they have a solid working relationship with them. Like, they take care of Ali's guys probably better than other managers because Ali doesn't make problems for them when they know he could. Ali could pull the rug out from the UFC if he just was like, hey guys, we're all going to collectively hold out. Dude, if all of a sudden 5 of the UFC champions held out, that'd be soul crushing to the business. So they take care of his guys. I think Gaethje's on $1 million, because Gaethje said that if he would have lost the Chandler fight, it would have cost him $1 million. So it sounds like he's on $1 million. So he's making $2 million a fight with, assuming that he wins without the belt. That's a fucking enormous deal. And he's a star, but he's with Ali, right? But so Markel's a terrible manager. Is he? Is he really a terrible manager? Because what actually is happening, and again, this is what it is. Markel works for CAA, okay? CAA is a direct competitor of Endeavor, which owns the UFC. Fucking direct. Chevron and Exxon direct. Or I can't even think about, they are vicious competitors against each other, Endeavor and CAA. But the thing about that, though, being with CAA, is if you're going to say you are going to independently go do a huge blockbuster boxing match with Tyson Fury, that's a threat with some teeth when it's CAA. Teeth as in, for sure they can do it. And they can do it, and there's all kinds of creative things that they could do. CAA has the world by the balls. There's absolutely no question that they could put that fight together. And they would co-promote with Tyson Fury's promotions company. And so if the UFC can successfully get Francis, hey man, this guy is blowing you, dude. You need better representation, man. You gotta, come on. You need a better manager, dude. You need a better manager. And then he actually fell for that, right? He actually fell for that. He's not going to. But if let's say that he did, and he goes and he, puts on, I don't know, some other manager that's not CAA, and they're like, yeah, I don't even know. whoever, right? And they're like, and it's like, all right, so now we're gonna go do this Tyson Fury blockbuster fight. It's like, okay, well, would you be? I mean, is that something that they're really gonna be able to facilitate? Probably not, right? Probably not. So that, in my opinion, is probably why the UFC is banging on Markel. It's because they're like they don't want him. Like they don't, you know. Francis having the ability to go do this fight on his own is the entire reason he has so much leverage. Right? And what's a manager supposed to be doing? They're supposed to be creating leverage for their fighter. That's what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, now, enough about that. Here's the thing. The best case scenario is for Francis to re-sign with the UFC, in my opinion. In my opinion. I think the best thing for Francis is for him to re-sign with the UFC with a legitimate, bulletproof contractual carve-out that he gets to fight Tyson Fury, assuming, like, let's say, I don't know, this will be a really complicated thing to get done contractually, so I doubt that they would be able to do it in 3 weeks. But let's say hypothetically that they knocked it out in 3 weeks, right? They pay Francis a lot of dough, whatever, and then they say in the contract that he had, I don't really even know how you do it, but let's say in the contract it says if he beats Cyril Gane, then wait, I wonder if they have John Jones. John Jones shows the whole thing in it. I mean, maybe they could even do it where if he beats Cyril Gane and then fights John Jones, but the John Jones fight must happen inside of, by, let's say, August of 2020 or September of 2022, so he must accept the John Jones fight if it's given to him but that fight must happen by August of 2022. Right? And then if he wins that fight, then from that date, they have, call it 14 months to put together, structure a boxing match with Tyson Fury, which the UFC will co-promote like they did with Conor. So you do it in a way where it's like, the UFC is protected against, UFC gets what they want. They lock Francis in. Francis gets what he wants because he wants the John Jones fight anyway. And then with a victory, contractually, he's then able to go fight Tyson Fury. And the UFC will make an enormous amount of money. And Francis gets to do it as a business partner. For that fight, he's a business partner. They're partners. He's not their fighter at that point. They're, Now, I don't know if that, I'm literally just, right there, I'm thinking of this right now. That's what I would do. If I was the UFC, that's exactly what I would do. I would say, beat Gane, then we have 8 to 9 months to provide, to put a bout agreement in front of you against John Jones with, you obviously pre-negotiate the figures. And if you beat John Jones, from that moment, you have, 12 to 14 months to get this entire thing done with the boxing. And I don't know, whatever, you figure out the details there. But that's the best case scenario for everybody. Best case scenario for the UFC, right? Because if you're Francis and they don't do it and you go beat Cyril Gane, guess what you're going to do then, right? Maybe Francis starts his own promotions company. And then he goes and, that's a pretty big launching pad, dude. It's a pretty big fucking launching pad. A guaranteed enormous blockbuster heavyweight title fight that's going to generate, you probably, if you are the co-promotions company and you're doing it on your own, and Francis and whoever, you got to figure they'll probably gross 100 million easy. Because I believe that they're going to sell that thing to the moon, especially if they listen to my advice and they do it in MMA gloves, dude. You do that Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou fight, and you do it in MMA gloves, that will sell. Oh my God, it'll sell 3 million pay-per-views. I guarantee it. Especially if you guys do a tour, and you get Tyson Fury, yapping. You really get people to understand Francis Ngannou's story. Show all the highlight knockouts of him in the 3-ounce gloves, because that's the whole thing. The whole thing is, in regular boxing gloves, no one's going to think that he has any chance against Tyson Fury. It doesn't mean he doesn't have a chance. But no one will think he has a chance. You put on the MMA gloves, and all of a sudden, it's like no one's ever seen Tyson Fury box with MMA gloves. right? His family is a lineage of bare knuckle boxing gypsy champions, like world champions. Like, it makes sense. Like, the story makes perfect fucking sense. And Francis was born in these motherfuckers. Anyway, so that's what I've got. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Apologies below. Peace.